Hello and welcome. I'm Amy and I'm going to be your guide once again today as we take a little time to contemplate life while flying through space on two wheels. So it's a Sunday morning, which is a perfect time to go for a ride around here because it's the time when the bikers come out to play. It's the time when they come out for their weekly run out in the countryside, and because I live very close to a small country town, very often, not always, but very often there's a whole bunch of them in my local area. So today what I want to do is take you for a ride and see how many friendly bikers we can spot, and then I want to take you through or for a bit of a meander along one of my absolute favorite roads to ride on around here. It's just beautiful. All the while having a chat with you. So today, you're probably keen to see, I'm going to be taking I'll show you, 1973 Yamaha TX500 for a ride. And ain't she a beauty? I'm a sucker for all things 70s, so this gorgeous burnt orange and gold coloring just sings to my heart. And this bike is very special to me. It's got a really special story attached with it, which I will share with you as we're riding along. So let's start her up. So you got to make sure you turn the fuel tap on. And this next step is very important. If you're not on a little baby quad bike or a tiny little dirt bike, and if your bike has more than one cylinder, chances are it has more than one fuel tap. And it's very important that you look for this fuel tap because it's an embarrassing mistake that you only make once. Let me tell you that much. So we pop the other fuel tap on, we open it up, we're going to pop the choke on all the way until we get heated up enough to turn it off. Look at this. Why do you need more than this on your dash, right? So we're in neutral, we're going to start her up. Oh my God. Okay, so just had to get fuel. I'm going to try to go as slow as I can without annoying everyone through here. The bike's lined up for breakfast. I'm going to try to control my hand that wants to wave at everyone and try to stick to the socially acceptable biker head nod. So this road is called Lover's Lane, and I think it's appropriately called Lover's Lane because it's beautiful. And when I was learning how to ride, so when I was on my L's, my learner's permit, I couldn't get anyone in the local area to give me lessons. I'd have to go like an hour and a half to find someone to teach me how to ride. So I ended up learning from a couple of old-time biker friends that I have who have been riding bikes for 50 years. And before I went for my practical riding test, these two, or one of the two, took me riding every single day, nearly every single day. I think we missed 2 days. Over 2.5 months. And on a great many number of those days, they would bring me here. We'd come riding here. So I did a lot of my learning, a lot of my bike riding learning on this road. What a beautiful place to learn. And that brings me to the story of how I ended up with this bike. One of those friends who taught me how to ride, he's been riding and collecting motorbikes for a good part of 50 years, 50 or more years. And so he has this awesome collection of motorcycles, ranging right from the beginning to the most modern electric motorbike you can get now. So ranging from the early 1900s to the modern day. And he was so supportive of me when I wanted to learn how to ride, because he gets it. He gets that feeling of oneness and joy and that intense experience of focus, but also unity with the environment. And this bike that I'm riding used to be his. And several years ago, when he got it, because he knows that I love the 70s, he invited me over to come and see the bike when it first arrived in his collection, and I immediately fell in love with it. Immediately. And I didn't have my license at the time, but I knew that I wanted to get my license, and I said every single time I saw that bike, oh my God, one day I am going to ride that bike. And it was like a goal for me to one day be able to ride this particular bike, the first bike that I really fell in love with. And so anyway, he kept it for years, and he kept it registered for years, knowing that one day I might like to take it for a little ride when I legally could. And then when I eventually did get my license some years later, the next time I came to visit him in his bike garage, he had this bike out for me, and he handed me the keys, and he said, "She's yours. As far as I'm concerned, she's always been yours. Congratulations. Here's your dream bike." And I was just so excited and so deeply moved by that as well, because I knew that he'd let me ride it, but I did not expect to be gifted it. And it was just, for me, the first time I got on this bike, after years of going, one day I will get on that bike. It was a huge milestone for me. It was very exciting, and I think he knew how much it would mean to me. So I am ever, ever, ever grateful to my friend, first of all, for teaching me and for encouraging me, and then for this awesome gift that I love. And I do love it. I love it just as much as I thought I would love it. And that's an extreme example of kindness. But kindness really goes a long way. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to gift motorcycles to new and upcoming or aspiring motorcyclists. But I'm also not saying that, if you know what I mean. No, I'm joking. And kindness isn't even necessarily about gifts. It's not even necessarily about doing things for other people. Kindness can be a word, it can be a thought, it can be the energy that you bring to someone. Sometimes kindness can even be calling someone on their crap, letting them know when they're being an idiot. That might be the most kind and loving thing that you can do for someone. But I think that kindness really goes a long way.
And I think that there are a lot of people out there who are perhaps a little bit miserable, waiting for the world to be kind to them, but potentially their misery is more due to their own lack of kindness. Because kindness, it is about the receiver of the kindness, of course. It's an expression of love and an expression of care, but it's also just good for you. It's good for the soul. I find it's just so much easier to be kind than it is to be nasty or to be inconsiderate or to be selfish, because when you're kind, well, you take your focus off yourself for a moment. A lot of our misery, I think, is also caused by us being very insular and overly focused on ourselves, our own needs, our own wants, our own desires, our own yearnings, our own appearance, our own misery. And when we get too insular, it's like we kind of collapse in on ourselves and we can develop this very dark, claustrophobic, crushing, physical, emotional and mental environment around ourselves, and we can kind of very easily get lost in there, just cycling round and round and round in our own damning thoughts or damning feelings. And I seriously believe that to be a huge cause of neurosis. There's a lot of neurosis these days. Is it a symptom or a cause of narcissism? Who's to say? But deeply intertwined. And a huge cause of misery. And an over-focus on the self, so appearance and materialism and things that in the long term don't really matter or count for anything. It's that insular, self-absorbed center of the universe kind of mentality. So to me, kindness is an opportunity, it's a means, it's a way of breaking out of that insulated self-prison. Because when you're kind to someone, what you're doing is you're considering their needs, you're considering where they're at, you're looking at them in a compassionate way where you're considering the whole person. And then you're asking yourself not what can I do for myself, but what can I do for other? What can I do to uplift other? And although the act of kindness, when it's truly altruistic, it's not about the self. And the aim of kindness is for it to ultimately end up being an act of true altruism, where it's not about you at all. You're entirely removed from the equation. But however altruistic, and there's an argument about whether true altruism really exists, because it always does something for you. It's good for your soul. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. It's good for your emotional experience. And I think that a lot of people, there's lights on these railway tracks, but you're always going to make sure you check them because you just never know. I think a lot of people would be a lot happier if they force themselves out of their self-imprisonment and took a look outside of themselves and considered what they could do for another. It just lights the heart up. It raises the overall vibration, increases your energy, opens the heart, clears the mind, sets the soul at ease. And I think that a great starting point for developing kindness is in the golden rule. I mean, it's so simple and it's so spoken about and so bandied around. The very, very simple golden rule of do unto others as you would have others do to you. But as simple as it is, it's a true starting place. It's not true altruism because it's do unto others as you would have them do to you. So there's still a consideration of the self in there. Oh, would I want this done to me? If not, then I won't do it to other. And that's kind of also taking into the law of cause and effect as well, because you're likely to reap what you sow. And again, that's a fine place to start. I don't want to reap selfishness or nastiness or greed or abuse, so I won't behave that way towards other. Yeah, great place to start, especially if it effectively alters and changes your behavior. The same with the golden rule. Great place to start. And I think more people could benefit from asking themselves that question. Oh, is this how I would want to be treated? Is this what I would want to experience? How would I feel if this was me on the receiving end of this? And if it's, I'd feel uplifted or supported or grateful, then fantastic, you're probably on track. And you've got to be brutally honest with yourself. And I think that would cure a great many maladies that we experience and that we see happening on this planet. Personally and collectively, globally, on a national level. Placing ourselves in other people's shoes. And then eventually, the more you practice the golden rule, the more you practice kindness, and the more you kind of aim towards the experience of true altruism, then kindness becomes your nature. And kindness, I believe, is our true nature. I believe that anything that's selfish or greedy or nasty or self-centered is man-made. It doesn't naturally exist. If you remove the damaged human personality or the human mentality, then those personality disorders that humanity seems to be so crippled by, some of humanity seems to be so crippled by, they just don't exist. So I believe that kindness is our true nature, but we have experiences along the way that crush the kindness out of us and cause us to replace kindness with something else. So if you're naturally a very kind, generous, open and loving person, and you don't know anything about boundaries, and you don't know that sometimes it's kind and a loving thing to say no, or to call someone on their poor behavior and to tell them that it's unacceptable. If you don't know that, and you've got a naive and sensitive, very generous heart, it can be very easy, and it can take not long at all before you find yourself being fully taken advantage of. Other people not reciprocating your kindness, spitting in the face of your kindness, stomping all over your tenderized heart with their dirty, mean shoes. And I think that a lot of people have experiences like that when they're young, that kind of teach them or encourage them not to be kind. So to go against their nature, to kind of shut the heart down, to become a little bit more cold, to become a little bit more selfish, because it's like, oh, well, no one else is looking out for me, so I better look out for me, and damn everyone else, because they're not treating me kindly, so I won't treat them kindly. Or why should I do that for you if you wouldn't do that for me? And we start to develop this insulating layer around ourselves and to become obsessed with ourselves because we haven't had examples of kindness around us. But if the kindness is nurtured, and if it's reciprocated, and if it's encouraged, and if it's not taken advantage of, and if it is truly unconditional in the environment, then I believe that our true nature of being kind, it remains. And it can remain pure, and it can remain altruistic, because there never comes a reason to become insular or to become overly focused on the self. And so I believe that a big path, part of humanity's healing is returning to this kindness. And again, a place to start is reciprocated kindness. So do unto others as you would have others do to you, starting with the golden rule. But then I think eventually our nature spawns and it takes over, and rather than it being do unto others as you would have others do to you, it's just, well, I'm kind, or I behave in this way. You stop even considering it to be kindness because it's just your nature. That's just who I am. That's how I respond. That's what I do. That's what fills me and what flows through me. And then it becomes the norm when we kind of evolve our character back to what comes naturally to us. But to do that, you have to reverse your way through all of the bad experiences you've had with other people so that you can stop obsessing over yourself and you can stop obsessing over whether people deserve your kindness or not. And ultimately it ends up being that you're kind not because someone deserves it, but just because that's how you are and you wouldn't do anything else. And to do anything else would make you feel sick. Because I think also with that character development comes the experience of being one with your fellow man, being one with your natural environment. And so the golden rule becomes, rather than do unto others as you would have others do to you, it becomes, well, I feel bad, I feel pain, my conscience lets me know, and I feel sick when I do something or behave in a way which isn't kind. And then the nature takes over, the heart takes over. And I'm not saying that everyone should be a doormat, because I don't believe that that is kind. I don't believe that it is kind to let yourself be abused, because kindness also, it does mean and it does involve, first of all, being kind to yourself. Because how can you truly altruistically give of yourself if you feel crippled or if you feel like you've got nothing to give? So kindness starts with being kind to the self and making sure that your boundaries are in place and that you're clear about what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. And it starts there. And then inevitably, for your own self-kindness and as a result of trying to be kind to others, you're feeling into what kindness would do in each moment. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing, because some people are assholes. Some people are nasty. Some people are mean. Some people are narcissistic. Some people are psychopathic. And if you're just naive with rose-colored glasses on, being equally, or the equal kind of kindness to everyone, equal behavior, equal treatment, then you're going to attract some pretty nasty types pretty quickly, and you're going to end up depleted, drained, exhausted, and worse off for the experience, but also the other person is just going to end up being more of a narcissist, more of a psychopath, fueled with more energy so that they can carry on in their nasty way with their bad behavior. And that doesn't serve anyone. That doesn't help them. It inflates them and makes them feel good for a moment, but it just feeds into their dysfunction and causes them to continue on because no one's said no to them. And bad people don't expect people to say no to them, and they are taken by surprise when you do say no to them, but that's kind of the only way that they're going to be encouraged to evolve beyond their current state. So kindness is learning how to take care of yourself. It's learning how to say no without even offering explanation. You should be able to just say no. It's learning about boundaries. It's learning about self-care. It's learning about and getting clear about what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. It's getting comfortable with a certain level of confrontation so that you do feel like you are in a position to be able to call people on their stuff without falling in a heap and totally losing it. And kindness is a strong thing to me. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of will. Again, it takes a lot of confront. It takes a lot of honesty. You've got to also be brutally honest with yourself. Is this actually kindness? Is this actually the kind thing to do, or is this just you being a big ego? Or taking out your past pains on someone else, or seeking revenge, or behaving in a way that you learned to behave as you were growing up, but which isn't actually altruistic or kind at all. And you've got to have all of this introspection running. You've got to have all of this brutal honesty running. You've got to be seeing people as they actually are, not how you want them to be. And you've got to be responding to people and bringing people what they need based on how they actually are, and not on their illusions, not based on their illusions or on your illusions either. So again, too easy to get into neutral on this bike. It's the opposite on some others. So again, this personal, psychological and spiritual development stuff, it takes guts. It takes a lot of confront. It takes a strong will, a strong heart, a strong alignment, and deep, deep honesty and introspection. So the world could do with a little more kindness. It's good for others, but it's also exceptionally medicinal for the individual. And eventually, I believe, call me naive or idealistic if you want to, but eventually I believe humanity will return to their altruistic nature. But we've got a lot of healing to go through, a lot of bad experience to reverse our way through, so that we can feel safe and comfortable enough to return to that nature without fearing being taken advantage of. As we know how to stand up to bullies, we know how to say no to bullies. So there is nothing to fear. We can go about our merry way being as kind and as loving as we want to be without any fear at all, because we know that we've got it under control. We can take care of ourselves. We're here for and with ourselves first. So I think it's worth healing the wounds associated with kindness and with love. Because life is better that way. So there you go. She handles the dirt all right. Not as well as my KTM, but better than my Harley. She really is a true classic, an all-rounder. I love this bike. Thanks for coming for a ride with me. I hope you can join me for the next one, because we got plenty of places to explore, plenty of wheels to roll around on, and plenty of deep topics to explore and to unpack. See you next time.